والصلاة وأتم التسليم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. This is the ninth sitting for the famous book Sifat al-Salat al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by the great Imam Muhammad Nasruddin al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala. Now we go to يعني is it Tartila?
No.
Tartila, the
No.
reading of the Quran, and then after that is Fata al-Imam, helping the Imam or correcting the Imam.
No.
I want to make a point before we continue about the issue of the nafl. Nafl is used two different ways to use this word. Sometimes they call it salat al-futur. Futur is in the Bukhari. It says bab salat al-futur. Now, kitab, kitab, salat al-futur. The chapter, the book of Futura means anything other than the 5 daily prayer. And then Imam Bukhari, he says, Bab, Methna, the chapter by twos. And he started bringing all of those different types of salah as other than the 5 daily prayer. So sometimes when they say nafl, they mean any salah that's other than the 5 daily prayer. So like in this case, the Shaikh was talking about what's specific to what's particular to not the 5 daily prayer and what we would call a special salat, like we would say sunan. This is not considered nafl when the Shaykh was talking, or duha is not considered nafl, or shuruk. It's not, because the Shaykh was using it to mean it's not tied to anything. When I brought that point, Shaykh al-Albani didn't mention this point. This is from one of the shuyukh who's explaining. He threw that in his doubts, as a question. So sometimes when you see nafl, it means anything outside the 5 daily prayer. And then sometimes nafl means it's not the 5 daily prayer, neither is it something tied to the 5 daily prayer, or a special prayer that the Prophet had, like duha, or what they would call salat al-ishraq, shuruk, and all of this kind of stuff. So those are the two ways to use this term. But when we were talking about it the last sitting, we were talking about it's not, of course, the 5 daily prayer. It's not tied to the 5 daily prayer, like you said, the sunnahs of fajr or the salat al-duha. We're talking about just someone wants to pray extra prayer, and it's not tied to anything. So that's how we use that now. So now how the Rasul used to rattil al-Quran, how he used to read rattil. And this I need to say la haddin wala ajlatin. The Prophet didn't read super slow, and he didn't read super fast. And you have different recitations, like you have some majowid. Hosri is famous for that style. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. That's majowid. But here, when they say not too slow, they mean إِنَّ الَّذِينَ That's too slow, because you're dragging the harakat. You're making inna, which is a 2 count, a 3 and a 4 count, because you're going too slow. And then, of course, the Prophet will go, inna ladina amanu salihat, like some people do, like, subhanAllah, are you serious? So tartil is in between. In between, I need slow and fast. You know, not slow enough to change the elongations or the harakat or the time something according to the rules of Tajweed should be said and how long it takes. Because you can drag something out, it should take 2 seconds to be 4 or 5 seconds. So he didn't read like that. And he didn't read super fast where something is 2 harakat, meaning it takes the length of saying a letter twice or 2 seconds. There's some people that say, have a fist and do like this. That's how you count the harakat. Or you have a hand open and you do like this. So for harakat, it's 2 count. Inna, not inna, that's 1. Inna, it's a shadda. So you say inna, or you say inna harakatan. So if someone is dragging that out, he's like, and this happens with brothers and sisters alike, don't really master the letters, the sounds, the vowels before they start reading. They might learn how to read a little bit, and you know, it's not proficient, or they were taught by somebody who left some things off. So when they open the Quran, it's like, wow, looking at the Muslim. But now they want to practice. So rather than saying inna, which is 2 count, he's looking, he's saying inna, because he's not sure. He recognizes it. He had it in the lesson, but he's not sure. So he's hesitating, and while he's being that slow, he's changing the count of how long it takes to say that. He's changing the rule, and that's what the Shaikh is talking about. Not too slow like that, and not too fast where inna is just inna. Because some people, they read that fast, it's a 2 count. You say, you got to give the shadda it's right. The shadda over a letter means 2 of that letter. So you hear the hesitation. Inna. If somebody's flying, he didn't give it, it's right. So this is when they talk about, when the Shaykh is bringing in this chapter, tartil, how the prophet read in the middle. Not too slow, that you change the rules of tajweed because you're dragging, and not too fast that you skip over some of the rules. You read it in the middle, tartil, nice, pace. Not too slow, not too fast, where you change something. It said, yani mufassalan. Yani mufassalan, yani means distinct. Mufassalan, everything is broken up. And that includes when the meaning goes together, like the famous ayat, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. We mentioned this last night, huh? The next ayat, الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Those 2 ayats go together. So technically you could say, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. That's one meaning. But how many ayat was that?
2.
2. So even when the meaning goes together, and you could connect it technically without changing anything, the prophet wouldn't do it. He would read ru'usa ayat, qatta mufassilan. He will break them up. That's his way of reading. If someone does it other than that, is it bid'ah? No. Because that's another thing. People will say, man, this guy, man, he's not following the way of the, man, ain't that bid'ah? Or you don't know to say bid'ah. Ain't that bid'ah, Afi? No, it's not bid'ah. It's not sweet either. It's bid'ah. No, it's bid'ah. It's not bid'ah. Everything that's not the way the prophet did can't be constituted as bid'ah. Gotta be careful. Have to be careful. So this is an important point that Prophet said would read not too slow, and the Shaikh's meaning where he changes the rules, and not too fast where he bypasses the rules. he would read in the middle of that as it relates to rhythm. And then the Prophet, he would read mufassalan. He would read each ayat separate. He wouldn't join them, even if the meaning of the two ayats together was correct. Even if one ayat, the meaning was connected with the next ayat, and it's okay to connect it, he wouldn't do it. And the Shaykh, he said, وَيَتَغَنَّى بِهِ فِي حُدُودِ يعني أحكام المعروف and يعني التجويد. And the Prophet would يتغني. What does يتغني mean? This means he would beautify the Quran with his voice. This is the meaning of يتغني in Arabic. We will say to beautify, and another way of saying that sing. But we don't use those words like that when we talk about the religion, because we don't want people to think that they could just do whatever they want with the Quran. When we say sing, that means you break rules, you elongate it how you want, you make something, as high a tone, as long, stretched out. That's singing. Yet the Yatabanni in Arabic means to beautify, and that's what we say. He's singing. It sounds good. But there's rules that goes with that in the issue of Quran. So they emphasize that. Yatabanna yani fi hudud. Hudud means with the boundary set by the rules of tajweed that was revealed. And that's important because even the Arabs sometimes, you hear him, subhanAllah, reading, you say, man, what the heck, and it's like, wow. But to him, because this is what the Prophet did, Yataganni, used to beautify, used to, make it sound good. But you have to stay within the confines of the rules. And you can't stay within the confines of something you don't know. You have to sit and learn it. Even you're Arab, you have to learn this. It's a fact of the Shayla Yurtay. The one who don't have something, how can he give it? That's what the Arabs used to say. Fact of the Shayla Yurtay. How can you give something you don't have? So you read the Quran, you're trying to practice tajweed, and you never study tajweed. It's a big mistake. So here, what the Shaykh is saying is very important. How the Prophet used to read, not too slow, in which he would change the rules because he's dragging, not too fast, where he would bypass the rules of recitation, and he would break each ayat up. Each ayat will be separate, even if the two ayat back to back carry the meaning and you could connect them technically, he wouldn't do it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he would beautify his voice. He would beautify the Quran, with his voice by the way he would recite without going beyond the rules and boundaries set for the recitation itself by Allah Ta'ala. As Ibn Taymiyyah said in the Quran, قال شيخ الإسلام تيمية إجماع العلماء على أن القرآن نزل بماذا الحروف والمعاني. He said all of the scholars agree that the Quran came down from Allah with its letters and its meanings. Letters and its meanings are included in how the Quran came down. And that also includes Saba Ahraf, the way you read it, how it should sound, the letters, the characteristics, if it's high, if it's low, if it's soft, if it's, like this. Now, and Shaykh al-Albani said, and the Prophet would not read the way that the Muqtadi read and the people who are the singers. This is important again. I remember Shaykh Mukbir, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was talking about people who recite the Qunut when you have Tawweeh. Allahumma ihdini fi man hadayt, wa'afini fi man afayt. The Shaykh said that shouldn't be read like Quran. Because when you listen to some people, Allahumma ihdini fi man hadayt, wa'afini fi man afayt, sound good. But the Shaykh said no. He said that's the haqq of the Quran. That is revealed for the Quran, not for dua and hadith. He said one time, he said somebody, this is when they had cassette tape, to somebody in his house. And I know the Shaikh at one time, he had 3 wives. He said somebody in the house was playing the cassette tape, and the person was, Allahumma, Allahumma. He was in the dark doing, Shaikh Mukbah was a funny Shaikh, man. He was funny, Jeff. You know, like people say, I'm funny. Shaikh was funny like that in the act. What? So the Shaikh, he's talking about this, and then he's getting loud, you know, because, you know, it's something that irritates him, and it's against the sunnah. He said, what can you do? Allahumma, Allahumma, Allahumma. He said, I took the tape and smashed that joint. Yeah, he said, I took the tape and smashed it. Boom! He said, because this is bid'ah. You have to sing like this, the qunut, and this is only this type of tajweed and recitation is for Quran, not for anything else. So Shaykh al-Albani, in his summarized version of this, where he's bringing the language for the common folk to understand, he's saying about this issue, and that the Prophet would not read like the muqtadi'een and those people who are singers. There's one reason why many scholars say, do not listen to Shaykh Abdul Basit. If you're trying to review Quran and learn Quran, one of the ways you do that outside of having a teacher, you got to listen to somebody on audio. You have a teacher, you read, review, you memorize, but you listen to. They said, do not listen to Abdul Basit. Because they say he sings, he breaks the rules. A 6 count is easy, an 8, 9 count without the Basit. Easy. You know, and this is what the Shaykh is saying, that the Prophet will not read like the muqtadi'een, neither the singers. For some people, they used to be singers from amongst the Arabs in these big groups, and then they became religious. So now they have that same style with the Quran and memorized. And Allah Musta'an, they go beyond the boundaries for Allah Musta'an. Al-Fathu ala al-Imam. Al-Fathu ala al-Imam means literally you open up on the Imam. But, you know, when they translate this, probably said correctly the Imam. What do you got in your book?
Yes, correctly Imam.
Correctly Imam.
No.
So Fatha, fa, ta, and ha. Fatha. That means to open. Also, Fatha means to facilitate, help out. That's why Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, he's al-Fath, the facilitator. You know, the one who opens ways for you. So when you hear the ayah, Allah Pt.8, Allah facilitate for you. Allah open the way for you. You know, you're in a jam, you need some relief. You know, Allah Pt.8, Allah open for you. You know, Allah make it easy for you like this. So the Shaykh said, Fath ala al-Imami, to help to assist the Imam. This one, the Shaykh al-Albani said it is legislated, but someone helps the Imam. If he have some struggle with the Quran. And when you listen to this, the Shaykh, he mentioned this in the book, said that once the Prophet ﷺ was leaving the Salah, and this is going to lead to the next thing, when the person has a problem and he has to say, and over his left shoulder. It's going to come after that because it's connected. But Prophet was in the Salah, and he had some distraction in the Salah. So after the Salah, he turned to Ubay ibn Ka'b. He asked Ubay ibn Ka'b, he said, will you pray behind us? Because, of course, again, people come in late. And Abdullah ibn Abbas said, we will know when the Salah maktuba. Maktuba means the 5:30 prayer. When it was over, because when we entered the masjid, we hear the people say, Allahu Akbar out loud. Subhanallah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. They're making a difference. So that's how they would know the salah is ended. Coming late. It's a big discussion. If you come in and the salah is over, you pray by yourself, you make a second jama'ah, because the companions, many of them, wouldn't pray a second jama'ah. If they missed the salah, they will pray individually, but also in the narration, they will go back home. They don't want nobody to see them praying, missing the salah, because that was a sign that you were a hypocrite. You weren't really serious about the salah and the religion, because you had those people in Medina. So, this issue, Salam asked Ubay, were you not praying behind us? But it's only because Ubay didn't correct him. Ubay bin Ka'b is from the ulama of the Quran during that time. So the Prophet said, why didn't you help me out? So the point that the Shaikh is bringing in this narration is that not just anybody should be trying to help the Imam out. And I remember this happened, subhanAllah. I see it before in different masajid. Somebody, he's trying to help the Imam, and he himself doesn't know what he's saying. Imagine the Imam is reading something you didn't memorize. When you hear it, you think, okay, that might be Baqarah, I heard that before. Or he's reading a part of the Quran towards the back of the Quran. You didn't memorize. But when you hear it, you say, okay, I know that's Quran. So, yeah. He's struggling. Or he says something that you think is a mistake, and you try to correct them, and you yourself don't know what you're saying. That's crazy. Mm. But that happened, a lot of times. Remember, one time, in this masjid, about a year ago, we were praying, reading from Surah Al-Ma'arij. And, subhanAllah al-Azim, we just got through talking about the surah and was talking about the ayat and reading it, me and another brother Hassan from Morocco. And so when it came time to make salah, that was right here in my head. So I'm reading from that. And somebody thought I was making a mistake, and he tried to help me. He not only was in the wrong place, he added to what was supposed to be said. So, because we had already went over it and we was talking about it, I think I used it in the Arabic class. We were doing Quran from Arabic. Mm-hmm. He didn't confuse me. I just kept going back and saying it again. And he just kept trying to add something in. And then finally, after about the third or fourth time, I was pretty adamant and saying what it should have been. He didn't try no more. And after the salah, him and the brother got into it. He said, man, you jackal, you ignorant. You didn't even know the Quran. He said, that's not what the ayat says. And the Shaykh was right. Why would you keep going back and trying to correct him and this and that? He wasn't even making no mistake. And they got into it. This was the Prophet ﷺ is asking Ubay, why did you correct me? Ubay is from the ulama of the Quran, of the Sahaba, Ubay bin Ka'b. Yeah. He's not just anybody. He's from the people who hamal al-Quran fi ahd al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was carrying the Quran as a scholar. Yeah. He's the same one, the Prophet sallallahu, he asked him, A'bama ayatin fil Quran. What is the greatest ayat in the Quran? Ubay bin Ka'b said, Allahu wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Messenger know best. Shaykh Fawzan, he said, the companions, when they used to say Allah and His Messenger know best, it was not because they didn't know all the time. He said, imagine, the Prophet is asking Ubay. He's talking about this hadith where the Prophet asked him, what's the greatest ayat in the Quran? He's asking Ubay bin Ka'b. Sheikh Fawzan said, imagine, obey, he didn't know that. He said, likewise, Salam, he asked Ma'ab, Haqq Allah ala al-ibadi, wa haqq al-ibadi ala Allah. What's the right of Allah on his servants and the right of the servants of Allah? So you think Mu'adh didn't know that? Mu'adh, again, being groomed from a young boy, became a scholar. Prophet sent him to Yemen at 18, 19 years old. Think they didn't know this? He said they would say, Allahu A'lam, Allahu Rasuluhu A'lam, Allah and his messenger know best, limazid al-ilm, because they wanted the prophet to give them more ilm. They knew if they said Allah and his messenger know best, the prophet was going to elaborate. Allahu Akbar Kabir. He asked Ubay, he said, what is the greatest ayah of the Quran? Ubay bin Ka'b said, Allah Rasuluhu A'lam, Allah and his messenger know best. Can we say Allah and his messenger know best now, after the prophet died?
Amen.
To laugh?
Yes.
Allah Akbar Kabir. اختلاف بين العلماء في اختلاف. Some ulama said no. Some said yes, if it's an Amur Deen. Because the prophet, he doesn't know. He's just dead. He knew best. He just died. Some said it's better to just say Allah knows best because the prophet isn't alive. And yet, Ubay bin Ka'b, he said Allah knows best, know best. The prophet asked him a second time. Then Ubay, he said, Allahu la ilaha illahu al-hayyul qayyum. Ayatul Kursi. Then the prophet said, you are correct. This is Ubay bin Ka'b. The prophet is asking him in this narration, why didn't you assist me? Why didn't you help me? So correcting the imam has two positions. Is it wajib, you have to, or is it mustahab, recommended? Which one? Correcting the imam. Is it on the side of wajib? It's a must. Or is it on the side, it's recommended, you should do it, but if you don't, no problem, no sin. Because you know wajib means if you don't do it, what? It's a sin on you, right?
No.
Wajib, you must do it. If you leave it off, it's a sin. If you do it, you fulfill it, you get a reward. That's wajib. You have to do it. You leave it off, there's a sin. If you do it, you get the reward. That's wajib. Wajib, the one who does it gets a reward. And the one who leaves it off, he's punishable by Allah. Mustahab is the opposite. Recommended from hope. Mustahab, it's recommended. It's light. It's sought for you to do. If you do it, you get a reward. That's mustahab. If you do it, you get a reward. If you leave it, tarakahu, la fam alayhi. There's no sin. La ya'aqib. He will not be punished if you leave it. That's mustahab. So correcting the imam, which one? Is it wajib or mustahab? Taking a deep breath.
Waiting for Imam.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. He's a wise man. Wait for the imam. I had to add brother imam. Yeah. They said this is in two categories. One is wajib and one is mustahab. If the imam waqa fi khata yubtilu salat, he happens, it occurs a mistake from him that will nullify the salat, then in that case, فَفَتْ عَلَى الْإِمَامِ هِينَ إِذٍ, Imam al-Albani said, wajib. Then you have to assist and correct the imam. If what he does is going to nullify the salah. But if he has a mistake, إذا كان خطأ الذي يلبس بإمام لا يبطل الصلاة, It will not nullify the salat. Then Shaykh al-Albani said, فَالْفَتْحُ عَلَيْهِ حِينَئِذٍ هُوَ مُسْتَحَبًّا. هُوَ مَاذَا مُسْتَحَبًّا. Then it's recommended. So this shows you that helping the imam could be one or two types. It could be you have to do it, or it's recommended. If it's recommended, you can let it go. If it's wajib, then you have to do it. Like, for example, if the imam is reading al-Fatiha, and the Shaykh, when Shaykh said this, he was giving an explanation, one of the shuyukh in Egypt, I would laugh. I said, wow. He said, if the imam is leading the salah, and he says, Iyaki na'buduwi, Iyaki nasta'ini, Iyaki, now the ayat is Iyaka. What is the ka here? The ka is, we're talking to Allah. Like I asked you, Kayfa halu ka. The ka is the pronoun, the attached pronoun for you, for master. So if I say, Kayfa halu ka, how are you? You say, Alhamdulillah. But if I say to you, Kayfa halu ki, I'm calling you a female. That's a mistake. So if somebody say, Iyaka, to you Allah alone. Iyaka, to you Allah by yourself, no partners. Iyaka, you talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you say Iyaki, subhanallah, you're changing the meaning. So the Shaykh said if somebody leading salat, he say Iyaki na'buduwi, Iyaki nasta'ini. SubhanAllah, you have to correct that man. You're changing the meaning. The salat will be batil. What did the Prophet say? If you have this thing not in your salat, you have no salat. Al-Fatiha. Yeah. What's one of the ways not to have Al-Fatiha? To change the meaning. So the Shaykh said that type of mistake, Iyaki na'budawi, Iyaki nasta'ini, and then the nasta'ini, yani, that ni, that ya, and you're talking about yourself. We seek assistance from me. You change the meaning. So you have, that person have to be corrected. Iyaki na'budi wa iyaki nasta'ini. Shaykh said, boy, wajaba, yani, fata'ala al-imam. You gotta help him. The whole salat can be batil for him, all the people behind him. Not to mention, he should be up there anyway. Wallahi, but you have to, Allah. If somebody make the mistake, he said, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Inna Allah Ghafur Rahim, Malik Yawmiddin. Okay. Some scholars say that's mustahab because you say, Inna Allah Ghafur Rahim. Ghafur Rahim. But you should say, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. This don't really change the meaning. It's a mistake, but it still leaves Allah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, because in order to be Al-Ghafur, you have to be Ar-Rahman, the one who gives mercy to everything. And then Rahim is already there from Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. You just had it with Al-Ghafur Rahim, and Allah Ghafur Rahim. So that is wrong, but that don't change the meaning of the Fatiha. But that first one, Iyaki na'budu, Iyaki nasta'ini, yeah, gotta change it. Then sometimes the brothers just say, Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, sirat al-ladina amta alayhim, sirat al-ladina amta alayhim, what's this? Amta, and Amta. An is one word. Amta is two words. Ta connects to an. Amta. Can't say amta alayhim like this one word. غير المغضوب عليهم. Then some people say ولا الضال. It's a bad. You say ولا الضال with a dad. ضالين. Some people say ولا الضالين. ضالين like shade. ولا الضال, and not those who have shade. ولا الضال like veil. ولا الضالين. Change the meaning. And you change the meaning. So this example, when you have an imam, and this means the person behind the imam have to be knowledgeable. That's what we learn from this, because the Prophet asked Ubay. That first line, and sometimes this is not even an issue because people don't come to the masjid no more. But normally when the masjid is packed, who do people have most right to the first line? The people know the Quran. Why? Because if the imam needs assistance, that's their job. They have to help the imam. Who know the Quran? People of the Quran. You know, the people that have the most right to the front row. Now, so alhamdulillah, this issue of khata al-imam, assisting the imam, this is important. And another thing too, when you talk about the issue of Brandon, you mentioned this, people shouldn't jump, to jump on the imam, help the imam, because sometimes the imam, he may be tired, he may be hungry. Like they said, we will know when Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal didn't eat for 3 days. Some of the Salaf, they said, we will know when the Imam Ahmad didn't eat for 3 days, because he was poor. And he didn't like to accept no sadaqah. I mean, one time, somebody came, I think it was Abdul Razak, who came and left a lot of sadaqah, bag of gold coins, all the way from Yemen. Left it with Abdullah. And when Imam Ahmed came, gave it to him, he said, what's this? He says, from, I think it was Abdul Razak. He said, it's from one of those ulama who brought it. And so he said, no, give it back to him. He didn't want it. He would rather work, borrow, you know what I'm saying, or sell something. That was the humility of Imam Ahmed. So sometimes they said we would know when he didn't eat for 3 days because he would make mistakes in the salah. I mean, he was impeccable. He wouldn't make no mistakes. So if he made a mistake, he said he ain't been eating because he's weak. His memory, he's tired, from hunger. So, when you talk about somebody making a mistake, then sometimes the brothers, they jump, almost style. They jump on you. But sometimes the imam, he knows his mistake. If you don't jump on him, he's going to fix his own mistake. He's going to go back, read the ayat over, fix it. He's going to go back, the word he left off, add it, keep going. But sometimes, as soon as somebody hears the mistake, they just jump. And this confuses the imam. And Ibn Kathir has a book called Fada al-Quran. What is it called? Kitab Fada al-Quran. The book, the virtues of the Quran. And he mentioned this, one of the chapters, the small book, that you don't jump on the imam. You give him a chance. This from the rules of correcting the imam is that you don't be too hasty. It's clear, like if he make a mistake and he going to keep going, then you correct him. But as soon as he make the mistake, you jump on him. Suppose he's going to go back. And when you're behind the imam, sometimes you hear them, they do that. They go back. He said, oh, wow, he made a mistake, but he went back and got that thing. And he just keep on flowing. But if somebody, as soon as he say something, they jump on him. And then 2 or 3 people at the same time. Oh, man. Almost time. So this is important when we talk about correcting the imam. Shaykh al-Albani brings this khata al-imam, helping the imam, assisting the imam, correcting the imam. Again, it's 2 different perspectives. One is wajib, you have to, if it's changing the meaning. And secondly, it's recommended if it's a mistake in pronunciation, but it doesn't change the meaning, which again, this means people have to be educated. You have to have knowledge to know this changes the salat, this changes the meaning, this doesn't change the meaning. They both pronunciation mistakes, but this one doesn't harm the meaning, this one does. You gotta be knowledgeable for that. Gotta have knowledge, yeah. Now, alhamdulillah. So this, the, this also, the prophet, one man, he came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, he said that when I pray, I get distracted from the salah. He said the shaitan, he came and he made me think about this and made me think about that. He said, this is the jinn khanzib. Khanzib or khinzib. You could say them both, the ulama say. Fatha, khanzib, or kasra, khinzib. Some words, you could have mentioned them both. And Al-Bani mentioned, this is chapter after. This is chapter after help with the Imam. It's the Adatu wa Tafalu. Seeking refuge in Allah and lightly spilling. So you have two things. You make it dhikr, Allah will take you from the devil, and then you're doing something physically to get him off you. And the Shaykh, he said, this is the death of waswas. This is how you defend yourself. You keep away the whisper. What is the whisper? What do we mean when we say the whisper?
Shaitan distracting you.
Shaitan distracting you, mashallah. Give me an example.
Maybe you start salah and you realize, oh man, I have my keys on me, or did I lock my door, or something like that. Anything that you wouldn't normally be thinking about.
I seek refuge in Allah from the whisper of shaitan. Now, some people would normally be thinking about, soon as you say Allah Akbar, all this stuff comes to you. And sometimes it's not your mind, because you weren't thinking about it. The shaitan whisper this to you. And it's not like somebody saying, hey, I can't. Not that kind of whisper. Here, the khayl, wasawis of the shaitan is, he put it in your mind. He makes you think about it. This is the whisper. It's the wasawis. It's called a khayl in Arabic. Imagine, you have this thing now in your mind. And Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, he said, Tadafil wasawis. As soon as you get that from the shaitan, he said, push that thing away. He said, فَإِلَّمْ تَدَافِعْ وَصَاوِسْ صَارَ يعني فِكْرًا. Because if you don't push away the initial whisper, it's going to become an idea now. First it's a whisper, a suggestion to you. If you leave it, it's going to develop an idea. He said, فَإِلَّمْ تَدَافِعْ الْفِكْرًا. And if you don't push the idea away, Sarah, shahwa. Shahwa. It's going to become now a passion. You got to do it. And this is when you talk about he whisper to you to do bad. Now we're talking about he whisper to you on the salah, to ruin your salah. As soon as you say Allahu Akbar, he whisper to you. You know you left that sandwich in the refrigerator behind the milk. Your wife won't get it. You're not thinking about that sandwich. Man, that sandwich been in there for 2 days. You forgot. I'm going to tell you about that thing. Soon you say Allahu Akbar.
I'm going to have to go to New York.
Tell you.
Excuse me.
So this was always Salam Allah wait for Allah give you safe trip. This the shaitan will do this, and that's why the Prophet he mentioned this, and this is why the Shaykh he mentioned this in the chapter after helping the Imam, assist the Imam, because it's relevant. Sometimes the Imam he needs some help because the shaitan he whisper. Other times it's something between him and hunger or whatever, sickness, tired. But sometimes it's the shaitan he whisper, make you distract you from where you were reading. So here, the chapter when the shaitan he whispered to you, and Prophet he said, you know, you fight against him and you seek Allah's refuge against him. Now, the same thing. What does scholars say about this? Is this wajib that you seek refuge in Allah against the shaitan, or it's recommended? Which one is recommended or is wajib? It's the adatu is to say a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And then the second part, we're gonna have a light blowing for spitting. Some brother will lie. They read in English said, spit on your left. Like this. You can't do that. You got a brother praying next to you. I was trying to practice the hadith, the shaitan whispered to me. Almost started a big fight. And everybody don't know this narration. So, you imagine you got somebody on your left and the shaitan whispering, you do that. So is it wajib? Is it recommended? If it's wajib, no escape. If it's recommended, then, you could not do it. And that will be in the case where you don't want to disturb somebody on the left, mess up his salah. He's thinking, what the heck is this guy doing? He's spitting. He doesn't have an idea what you're doing. So, the Prophet he said to seek refuge and Allah. And you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and then light. Light spilled from the mouth. And sometimes the scholar said it could be either or. It can be recommended or it can be wajib. It depends. It could be wajib and it could be recommended. And this was Prophet he mentioned to Uthman ibn As when he told him, "O Messenger of Allah," he said, "the shaitan has come between me and my recitation and my salah." He said, "Yulabisuha alay." He is confusing me. He's making a problem for me and the salah. So the Prophet said to him, he said, "That shaitan." He said, "That shaitan." And this shows you this is not just a jinn. He mentioned it before. It's between jinn and shaitan. Jinn, he's normally a Muslim, but he's a jinn. But shaitan, he's a jinn, but he's normally a kafir. And he's going to do stuff to distract you from salah. He's going to do stuff that only the shaitan, an evil devil, would do. So the Prophet said, "That is shaitan." That shaitan, it said, يقال له خنزب أو خنزب. He is known as Khanzib or Khinzib. So there are two ways you can say it. Khanzib, but that fatha on the kha, or Khinzib. Both of them correct. And this job for him is to distract you in the salah. So this one, he comes as soon as you start to pray, and it will make you remember so-and-so owe you $15. You hope he comes for salah. Or that you owe such and such $20. You hope he don't come for salah. He come in, I have all kind of stuff to remind you. Even Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, he said, if you want to remember something, pray. If it's something you forgot, you're trying to think about that thing, it said Sunday. It said the shaitan is going to make you remember that thing in the salah. Amazing. So this is the thing that the Shaykh al-Albani was talking about, because it takes you from the spirit of the salah. From the spirit of salah is that you focus inwardly, outwardly, you're concentrating. And so when that happens, sometimes you can't recover that salah. You just finish it, but you'll never be able to go back to 100%, 80%. And this is why Sullivan said you seek refuge in Allah from the shaitan. And if, many scholars have said, if the one's on your left, if no one's on your left, then you turn, you say, lightly 3 times, and this will push that devil. This will keep him away. Now, and this, you understand, is important for that shaitan to distract you, because Allah said, "Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar." That salah, people who believe in Allah, they have the salah properly. They know what they're saying, and they're in the salah with correct intention and sincerity. That salah is supposed to keep them away from al-fahsha'i, which is yani evil deeds, wal munkar, and that which is major indecencies. Fahsha sometimes is talking about fornication, adultery. Other times, fahsha is just talking about bad deeds. And then munkar is things that are bad, but it's less in filth. You have some things that are bad, indecent, haram. You have some things that are bad, haram, but not as indecent. And then sometimes fahsha just means sexual, and munkar means all the other major sins. So Allah said the salah keeps you away from that. While Tabaraka wa Ta'ala say, "Innahu ya'murukum bis-su'i wal-fahsha'i," that he, shaitan, he only commands you to do su, that which is evil, wal-fahsha'i, and indecencies. So you see why he's going to come and whisper and distract you in salah? Because that salah is supposed to keep you away from him and what he's going to call you to. So if he can whisper to you and distract you, then you lose your weaponry against him. And that's why the Prophet he said, seek refuge from Allah from the shaitan, and then you spit lightly 3 times on your left, which shows you it should be something that you say, not just I said it in my mind. No, it's words you say. You seek refuge on Tabaraka wa Ta'ala from him, and he harm you inwardly and outwardly, the shaitan. Now, what time is it now?
12 o'clock.
Okay. And the Maghrib is what time?
5:47.
We've been going how long now? About what?
Almost 2 hours and 15 minutes or so.
But since we started
Oh, the
this
second
test,
one? Oh no, I'm sorry. It's been about an hour.
tell you, so this hadith, when the companion, he complained to the Prophet, he said, I did what the Prophet told me. So let me show you, to be like this. He said that the shaitan, he left me alone. He left from whispering to me. So that shows you what Prophet said, it works, it's true, but it will vary depending on the person themselves, depending on their sincerity, depending on their level of truthfulness, depending on their level of conviction. Then things work, just as things don't work. This is even with your dua. Sometimes the people, they make dua. Prophet said a person say da'autu, I made dua, I made dua, I made dua. Walam yastajib. But I have not been answered yet. Allah didn't answer me. Prophet said, yani, la tasta'jilu. Don't be hasty. He called this haste. Because you're making dua, Allah didn't answer you. Don't mean that Allah won't answer you. But sometimes the scholars have said that maybe that person's heart isn't in the dua. They're making dua, but they're not serious about the dua. They're making dua, but they don't really feel that Allah hears, He's above the heavens, He's going to answer. They're just, like going through something in a negligent or heedless way. Of course, then it's not going to be effective. Like someone who knows Allah, he hears, He's above the seven heavens. It's going to reach him. He's going to answer me. He's going to protect me. So it varies from person to person. And you see in this narration, that companion, he said, so I did what the prophet said, and it worked. I did what the prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and it worked. Now, inshallah, let's take a 5-minute, 10-minute